Welcome to the Happy Lawyer Project. I'm your host, Akoma Moronu, and I created this show to help lawyers find happiness in life with a law degree. Together with my guests, we provide the knowledge, skills, insight, inspiration, and encouragement you need to find your happy. This week's episode is sponsored by Common Bond. As you may know, interest rates are on the rise, and if you're considering refinancing your student loans this year, I'd recommend you check out Common Bond. I've used them to refinance my own loans and find that they not only have some of the best rates in the market, but their website is super easy to use. And you don't have to worry. You can go over and check your rate without any commitment or negative hit to your credit score. So head on over to commonbond.co/happy lawyer, and if you use the link, you'll even get a $200 cash bonus when refinancing your loan. So now that we've got some housekeeping out of the way, I want to wish everyone a huge Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday and has started the year off with a bang. I love to start each year with a financial podcast because I know so many of us are setting big financial goals so we can hit and achieve our big dreams. So on this year's opening show, I have on certified financial educator Tia Chambers. She's written for some publications you may have heard of, such as The Washington Post, USA Today, and Market Watch. On the episode, we chat about getting your emergency fund in order, what to do about rising interest rates, how to budget for that big trip you have in store for the year, and so much more. Hope this will be the beginning of a very prosperous year. Welcome back to the show, lawyers. I am super excited to introduce you guys today to my guest, Tia Chambers. Now, be nice. She's not a lawyer, but she's going to have lots and lots of helpful hints for you guys. So welcome to the show, Tia.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. I am so glad to be here to speak with you and to hopefully educate your audience on, some money tips starting the new year right.
Yes, and that is why I have you on. I know that so many lawyers make money goals, so many people, but so much of my audience make money goals in the new year. So I thought it would be a great way to start off the year. And before we dive into kind of more specific questions that people have this time of year, I'd love if you could just give a brief description of kind of what you do and who you are.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So like you mentioned, my name is Tia Chambers. I started the website Financially Fit and Fab about 2 years ago. I actually help millennials kick their finances into shape. So the way that I think about it is, if you're losing weight or trying to get in shape, you might have a personal trainer that you go to that encourages you, that motivates you and educates you. Well, that's what I do for my clients in terms of finances. I hold them accountable to their financial goals, and I help them reach those financial goals. So on my website, I provide a lot of do-it-yourself education about budgeting, saving, credit, investing, and home ownership. Some of my background, I'm a certified financial educator, and I have 9 years of experience between banking, the student loan industry, and most recently, investing. So I like to provide that background and that piece when I'm really helping my clients.
Fantastic. So let's dive right in. Everybody who listens knows that I'm a huge money nerd and I love chatting money. So I'm excited to selfishly get some of my questions answered and hopefully in the meantime help some of my listeners. So as an initial question, I know that most financial advisors, coaches, planners like to start with a good emergency fund. How much should people be putting away these days, and what are the metrics that people should use, and how does having student loans impact that?
Great question. And you are right. Having an emergency fund or having that cash on available or on demand for an emergency like a car emergency or job loss is very important. Now, for most of your audience who are lawyers, I would say about 3 months of emergency savings would be sufficient. So 3 months of expenses in a cash type or money market account that they're able to access in event of emergencies. Of course, student loan debt does go into play. Now, it does depend on what type of student loans you have. So although we want to continue to pay our student loans, if it's a federal student loan, you may have some options if you're, currently unemployed. If it's a private loan, however, those definitely need to be paid because they're just like having a private debt, like a credit card or like a car loan, that sort of thing. So definitely 3 months. It may be more if you're, transitioning out of the law field. Some even say less, but I would definitely say 3 months is a sufficient place to start to have that cash on demand in case of emergencies or job loss.
And you said maybe more if you're transitioning. How much more is more?
Sure. So more, I would say all the way up to six months of savings in a cash type of account. The reason I say more is depending on what field you plan on moving into. If there's not as much job security, you want to really have that cushion while you are looking for a job. You also want to have the time where you don't feel pressed to just accept a position that, is not really what you love and doesn't make you happy. So if you're moving into an area where you're not sure how long it might take to find a position, I would definitely encourage saving more. That way you don't need to dip into like any investments or gain any new debt to survive.
I think that's great advice. I actually am crazily risk averse because I am a lawyer and so I keep a lot of cash on hand. But I think that 3 to 6 months is if you can get there, is definitely necessary. And this is kind of a detailed question, but when calculating your expenses, what are your tips there?
Sure. And so when you say calculating expenses, do you primarily mean for your emergency fund or just in general?
Yeah, for your emergency fund. Because I think when you tell people 3 to 6 months of expenses, what should go into that number? What do people because my general feeling is that people grossly underestimate what their expenses are. But maybe that's offset by when you're in actual survival mode, you will cut back quite a bit on what you spend. So I just would be interested on your thoughts on how people should go about getting that number.
Great question. Thank you for breaking that down. So I call it like a bare bones budget is what I like to call it. So by bare bones budget, that means all of your bills are paid, but you also can eat. So you may not be going to the fancy steak restaurant or having bottles of wine, but you are able to survive. So just like you said, you may not be going into the office and having Starbucks every day, but you still need to eat day to day. So a bare bones budget. So definitely whether that's, your housing, all of the bills associated with that, even student loan, just like I mentioned earlier. If you do have federal student loans, you have a little more flexibility with options when you're unemployed. But if it's a private student loans, your options are extremely limited. So you just want to make sure you're not putting yourself into a further hardship or affecting your credit down the line when it's time to, buy a house or do other things.
That's a great point. Perfect. So speaking of student loans and kind of things further down the line, as we've been saying for a long time in the market, that interest rates will be going up. We're starting to see a little bit of that in the market. They haven't crept up that much, but we're starting to see a little bit of an increase. And I know that there are people out there who are wondering how that's going to impact them and kind of the products that they're hoping to access in the next coming years, whether that's student loan refinancing or credit card debt they may have, or, buying a home. Is there anything that we should be thinking about or that's on the horizon that will be impacting our decisions?
Sure. So interest rates can seem like a very scary thing. Rising interest rates have been at, one of their lowest very lately in the past couple of years. And as you're gaining more assets, so whether it's a house or a car where your interest rate does affect it, you want to keep that in mind. So what you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned refinancing student loans, paying off credit card, or buying a house in particular. So I want to start with really the credit card debt. So I'd say definitely try to pay off the credit card debt as soon as possible for a couple of reasons. One, your credit card debt is definitely going to be affected by the interest rate increases. You may have already seen it because the interest rates increased a few times last year in the past 2 years. So you may have gotten a letter in the mail from your credit card company saying that your interest rate went up a small amount, like 0.25% or so. So definitely get rid of the credit card debt as soon as possible. Another reason where you're considering like your bare bones budget that we talked about in the last question, if you don't have credit card debt, you don't have to worry about putting that monthly payment into there. And of course, we want to be paying more than our monthly payment, but it's just something you don't have to worry about at all. So in terms of buying a house and refinancing your student loans, of course, it'd be better to do that sooner than later while the interest rates are still low. But it's always important to have a really high credit score, as high as possible. We can definitely talk about tips to improve your credit score, but having the highest credit score possible can ensure that you're in the best place when you're actually ready to refinance your loans or even buy that house.
Yeah, no, I think that that's great advice. And that's something you definitely have to do the calculation around, because oftentimes, the lower interest rate you could get now on something like a mortgage could possibly offset, depending on how long it would take you to increase your credit score. I suppose it would be possible to say that now if you were at like a 680, because interest rates are so low, perhaps you wouldn't be able to get that much better of an interest rate if you were only able to get up your score by, 50 points in the next 3 years as interest rates rise. And I don't know if there's any way to really do that calculation, but it's something worth considering.
And you are so right, because especially a house, if you think about how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're going to spend on a house, interest rate truly matters. Whether it's 0.5% or 1%, it really matters. So if you're in the market, you're thinking maybe soon I'll want to buy a house, it's worth even talking to a realtor or a mortgage loan officer about that, and maybe they can give you some perspective on the difference in what your mortgage payment would be and how much interest you're paying, depending on what the interest rate is.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point, because I think it also may be worthwhile to have a conversation about how much of a difference you need to have in your credit score to see a real difference in the interest rate. Mm-hmm. Because if you need to, increase your score 200 points in order to see a real change, you're probably not going to do that in the next. But you're the expert. You tell me, how much can you increase your credit score?
It really depends what is on your credit report. Some of the quickest ways to kind of increase your credit score, one of the quickest ways is disputing discrepancies. So depending on the last time you pulled your credit report, I definitely say the first of the year is a wonderful time to pull that. You can pull it for free from annualcreditreport.com, but there are other tools like Credit Karma or Credit Sesame that will also, provide you good insights about your credit score. So that's one of the quickest ways, is to pull your credit report and make sure that everything on there is actually you and legitimate. If it's not, you can actually dispute any inaccuracies. So by disputing, you're letting the company know, hey, this is not my debt. You have it all wrong. And so if they remove any of those inaccuracies, that can definitely help skyrocket your score. So that would be like the number one tip, is to dispute any inaccuracies on your credit report.
Monitoring your credit is so important. I think especially in this day and age where credit fraud is so rampant and so easy. And anyone can really be a victim, as we saw this year with all the various, events in the news, whether it was Wells Fargo or, I'm going to say the wrong company, Experian or
Equifax.
Equifax. I always say Experian. That poor Experian.
But you're right. So I actually was a victim of identity theft a couple of years ago. Someone got a hold of my Social Security number and they tried to file taxes under my Social Security number in order to get some sort of refund. And it was definitely a hassle and scary. It's like this person was taking advantage of me in a way that I didn't even know how. So it's super important, whether you're actually looking to use your credit now or just for the future, that you are pulling your credit report at least quarterly, if not more.
That's great advice. And I actually recently heard a study that Social Security fraud is like on the rise. Like it's one of the fastest growing types of fraud in the country right now. So everybody who's out there filing your taxes now, keep an eye out. But for those who don't know, what's considered a good credit score these days?
I would say the mid 700s is definitely a good credit score. People always want the dream of the 800 credit score, but a lot of times if your credit score is within the mid to high 700s, you can get just as good of interest rate opportunities, whether it's buying a house or getting a car. So definitely mid like 750, 760, anything higher would be an excellent credit score when you're, applying for a mortgage.
Between you and me, I tried to get a perfect credit score this last year, and I got very, very close, but I couldn't figure out how to get that last I got up to 846.
That is awesome. I'd say the one elephant that, it's time. Time definitely helps your credit score. So, keep at what you're doing, and over time, you'll get there.
I think that's definitely one of my issues is that I do a lot of credit card hacking. And so I'm always opening and closing credit cards. So that definitely yo-yos my credit score quite a bit.
Definitely, but it sounds like it's worth it if you're able to travel for free.
Absolutely. And we're going to get to that because I love talking travel. But before we get to that, we were talking about tax season coming up and it being the end of the year. I know a lot of lawyers out there are either getting their bonuses or expecting a big tax refund. What are your suggestions, tips for spending your windfall? I know you should prioritize it and put it all towards your biggest goal, but what if you want to spend it all?
I understand. I've been there and I wanted to spend it all. It's crazy that I forgot it was like that season until I was driving to work today and someone on the radio was talking about tax refunds. I was like, oh yeah, it is January. Man, where's my mind been? But if you're, if you want to splurge and spend it all on yourself, what I'd say is spend half on yourself of that bonus or of that tax refund and spend the other half toward your biggest goal. So whether that's paying down debt, whether it's investing, this is a really good time where whether it's cryptocurrency that's on the news or just investing in a stock that you've really been researching for a while, take half of that money and use it toward your financial goals.
You're very generous. I think half. I would be lucky if my husband let me spend half. But we have big goals this year, so I'm happy to put the money towards them. I think it will very much pay off in the end.
And that's fair. I mean, I'm more of a stickler and I will probably put it all the way toward my goals. But being realistic, everyone wants to treat themselves. And I mean, it's fair. So at least 50% definitely use toward your goals, if not more.
I think that transitions really nicely into one of the most common questions, and I'm sure it's the question you get so often from your clients, but how should people balance paying off debt and investing for their future?
Great question. So one of my favorite statistics is that millennials need approximately $1.8 to $2.2 million to retire. So that is a ton of money. So it's definitely important that we don't put it off forever in terms of saving for retirement. But, it is twofold. What if you have a lot of debt? So I'd say first tackle any high interest rate debt. So that'd be like credit card debt that has high interest rates. And then start saving some toward your future. So save it in a retirement account. If your company has a 401k match, then definitely contribute up into that match. If you don't have a match, then there are other options for you as well. You can open up an IRA, a traditional IRA. Depending on your income, a Roth is a possibility, but a traditional is definitely an option as well, just so that you are saving along the way.
And what do you consider a high interest rate?
Very good question. So, and I hate to say it depends, but I mean, I think student loans goes in a different bucket, but if it's not a student loan, anything over 5% should definitely get paid off as soon as possible.
Okay, that's a fair number.
And why I kind of say 5% is the average return on the S&P 500 is between like 8% and 12%. So if you're investing in just an average, mutual fund or ETF, you definitely don't want to have debt that is costing you more than what you're earning in the market.
Yep, that makes sense to me. And I think that that's kind of the approach that I took. I was one of the very lucky people who got federal student loans at 8.75% back during the recession. So I was very hyper focused on getting those interest rates down and was lucky to be able to shortly refinance them. And now they sit kind of at 3%. So I've slowed down my debt payoff so that I could build up my investment, because I really wasn't investing those first few years while I was waiting to be able to refinance them. And I think that kind of having that strategy around what your interest rates are and what makes sense for you is really important and really helps you focus your money properly.
Exactly. I know a lot of people like to preach the debt snowball method, where you more so look at the lowest balance. And although that's great for morale and, and keeping you encouraged, ultimately it's important to look at the interest rate and figure out what's costing you the most money and start paying that down as soon as possible, especially if you have the extra money to go toward that debt.
And I think the debt snowball method only really works if what you're talking about, at least this is, obviously just my opinion. No, nothing against Dave Ramsey and all of his horde who are going to come after me. But it really only works if the balances vary greatly and if there's actually one that's significantly smaller. Because I think for a lot of people, when you're talking about student loans, they tend to be very similar balances. Mm-hmm. And the amounts are so large, at least for law school students, each of the balances can be $30,000, $40,000. And you're talking about $30,000 or $40,000 loans. None of them is going to get paid off that quickly.
Exactly. And so I just finished reading Dave Ramsey's book, Total Money Makeover. And hopefully no one comes after me either, because he does have some great philosophies. But what I really learned was it really is just to give you that benefit of, okay, I paid this off. And it feels good if it's a smaller debt, like $500 or a couple $1,000. But when it's a larger debt, it still is going to take you quite a while to pay that off to reach that first goal.
Yep, absolutely. And we definitely used it for my husband, and it worked great for him because he's definitely not as financially minded as me. So he didn't like managing all the different accounts, and he had like small, I don't even know what they're called, like Stafford loans and those types of things, and like little grants that were like, $1,200 here, $5,000 there. And that made a lot of sense because for him, it was a lot more about consolidating in the process of wiping out the smaller amounts, and less about kind of speed of, mathematically attacking his loans.
That makes sense.
So we've talked a lot of money, and you've kind of touched on one of my favorite topics. So I would love to talk about fun money. We touched on this when talking about windfalls and, tax refunds or bonus season. But I think for a lot of lawyers, and this may just be the lawyers I know because it's what I love, travel is a huge part of their goals and their interests and what they're planning to do in 2018. And I know that you also write about travel on your site. So I'd love to chat a little bit about your tips for traveling on a budget and the mistakes you see people making when planning travel.
Definitely. So very funny you asked about travel. I actually just came back from Nigeria about 3 weeks ago for a really good friend's wedding. And that was an amazing experience. But even on that trip, I saw people making mistakes in terms of planning in advance. And I think that's honestly the biggest mistake, is just failing to budget and plan in advance. And I hate that a budget has turned into such like a negative word, but it's really like a spending plan. So figuring out how much you're going to spend on your trip and having that dollar amount saved aside so that you have it readily available for that trip. So I know another big issue, you mentioned you like the travel hack. So there's some awesome credit cards on the market where you have a sign-on bonus. So, when you spend that $4,000 or $3,000 in, 3 months or so, you're granted a lot of points. One of the biggest things I see is that people aren't paying off those credit cards right away, or it's causing them to overspend. So sure, you got this awesome free flight, you're super happy about it, but now you're accruing interest every month on that credit card, and it has a hefty annual fee that you weren't expecting. So it's really costing you more money in the long run to quote unquote travel hack or card churn.
Yeah, no, you definitely need to know yourself and know that you're somebody who's good at credit cards if you're going to do that, and understand kind of the costs of holding that credit card, whether that's actual cost in the form of an annual fee or cost to your credit score or any of those other things.
Definitely. I know there are a lot of great deals out there. I saw a deal earlier this week to Greece that I wanted to jump on, but just being realistic as well. I love to travel, so just keeping your goals in mind and realizing what you may be sacrificing to go on that trip, or just choosing what's most important to you. So maybe this fancy dinner or happy hour every day is not as important to me as this big trip, and still being able to pay down my debt at the same time.
And to your point about planning, I think part of the reason you sit down and figure out how much it's going to cost to take that trip ahead of time is because it's easier to know whether or not you can have that fancy dinner. I think if you have this abstract idea that you're going to take a big trip to Greece, but you don't know how much it's going to cost, you can't plan ahead, and you can't know whether you can go to the dinner or whether you can go to the dinner and just not have, wine at dinner. And there's no sense of how much you actually need to be saving until you sit down and get at least a rough estimate of how much you need to be saving in the upcoming months to get to that goal.
Exactly. I totally agree.
So what's on your list for this year if Greece didn't make the cut?
So Greece is still on the cut. Greece is still there. So I didn't get the flight deal, and I may be kicking myself later. Greece is definitely still on the list, and that will be my international trip, possibly only an international trip. A couple domestic trips planned for Orlando, LA. Typically go to DC and Atlanta every year, but Greece is going to be the big trip. So I always claim something, put it on my vision board. It's happening. It just may not happen. The ticket may not be bought now, but that's definitely happening. How about you guys' trips coming up?
Yeah, no, we love to travel. It's so funny that you say Greece because my sister just got engaged 2 weeks ago, and her new fiance's family summers in Greece. And so I'm pushing for a Greece wedding next summer. But we will see if we can actually get them there. This year, we actually have a big trip planned because my mom has a big birthday, and I think she would be happy if I stopped sharing the number on my podcast. So we are all headed back to Malaysia for her birthday. So we're going to do a big Southeast Asia trip with the kids for the first time. I grew up in Southeast Asia, and my husband and I met kind of traveling in Southeast Asia. So it's kind of a big homecoming for me to get to go see my family, and I haven't been back in a couple years, and to take my kids and meet my cousins and aunts and uncles and things and celebrate my mom's birthday.
Oh, that'll be awesome.
Yeah. So, but of course, it's way more expensive when you're taking 2 children versus when you're 2, 20-somethings backpacking through Southeast Asia. Because the places we slept, I wouldn't even let my kids walk by.
But it was an experience, and now you can, tell the story to them when they get older.
Oh, absolutely. No, I wouldn't have done it any other way, but I just didn't realize how expensive Asia could be when you're trying to keep your kids from getting, Hep B.
I understand. Going to Nigeria, I had to get lots of shots, and it's definitely a whole new world depending on where you're traveling to.
Yeah, I'm actually Nigerian. My dad's Nigerian, and I haven't been back in a while. That's definitely on my dad's to-do list for the near future, but there's just too many places to go and not enough summers.
I agree. Well,
speaking of goals beyond travel, what are your money goals for this year?
Sure. So I have the biggest goal, or one of my biggest goals, is that I want to start investing in real estate.
Oh. So I love real estate.
Oh, see, so that is awesome. So I live in Indianapolis, and I will say the real estate market is very inexpensive compared to larger cities. So I did buy my first home about 2 years ago, and I've been able to connect with quite a few real estate investors, some that are also in like the financial media space in Indianapolis. And they have been pushing me to the point of, Tia, what is it going to take for you to buy a house. Like, what is it going to take for you to buy a rental property? We will do almost everything for you. What is it going to take? So I spent a lot of 2017 really researching because that's just the type of person I am. So I read 4 or 5 books about real estate investing, a ton of blogs. Oh, man, the favorite one, which I post all the time. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the podcast Bigger Pockets.
Yep. Brandon Turner was my FinCon mentor, my first FinCon.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yep.
Very, very awesome. So one of the books from their group, and the book is the book on investing in real estate with low and no money down, using other people's monies. Are you familiar with the book?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so that was my favorite. I think that's probably the first book I read, and I finished it like in a day or two.
Yeah, no, Brandon, he writes in a very digestible way.
Yes, so that is definitely my biggest money goal for 2018, and it's kind of a scary goal, but I think goals should scare you. They should be challenging.
Absolutely. That's such an exciting goal. I'm so jealous. I bought my first property 2.5 years ago now, and it's doing well. The first year we budgeted for a lot of renovations, and so we kind of broke even the first year. So this second year was the first, full year where we actually made a profit, which was fun. It was nice to see those paychecks finally come in after all the hard work to kind of turn the tenants and renovate all the units and things like that. But I love real estate and have been looking again, but I'm not sure if it's the right time to pick up a second place. We really, really want to buy a place abroad. And so we've been kind of focused on that right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's very great coincidence. Awesome.
Yeah, no, I love real estate. I'm so excited to hear that you're getting into it. So I will definitely be following up with you. I'm sure you'll be blogging about it on your site.
Definitely.
Fantastic. And so for those who are listening who want to follow your story and learn more about the work that you do, can you share again one more time your website, any social media where you're active?
Yeah, definitely. So honestly, just head to the website. It's financiallyfitandfab.com. On the website, you can find all of my social media links. I'm pretty active on everything: Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So just head to financiallyfitandfab.com. I'd love to chat with you.
Wonderful. Yeah, I will include the links on the show notes at thehappylawyerproject.com. And so people can access it there if they are looking for you and can't find you. But other than Brandon's book, I would just want to pick your brain. Do you have any other resources that you recommend for beginners who are looking to get into investing, who are trying to get money right, who are just beginning to think about their money in 2018?
So it's so funny you ask, because one of my most recent posts on the site is actually 8 personal finance books you should read in 2018 to help you manage money better. So
how did I not see that? I was just on your site yesterday.
Yes. So it's actually so funny. In 2017, I learned that, or read a quote from the book Rich Habits, that 85% of millionaires read 2 or more books a month. So ever since I really read that quote, I was like, man, I'm reading all the time. So it's funny you asked me about books. I have turned into a book nerd, and actually next to me is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So I'm always reading. So, but if someone just is wanting to get started in money, I think it depends on what they're looking to get started in. If it's the first book, I'd really say, which is more so about mindset and not about money, is The Secret. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book. Okay, so I would say, although it's not focused on money, that is the very first book that anyone should read. It's a quick read, and it just really talks about having the proper mindset to, achieve your goals, achieve happiness. So that's definitely the first book I'd say to read. Also, if you haven't already read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's another good book.
That's what I thought you were going to say for the real estate book.
Yes. So if you haven't already read that, read that. And even buy the board game Cash Flow. I'm not sure if you've played Cash Flow yet.
No, I haven't, but it's because I haven't found anyone who will play it with me.
If you were in the Midwest, I would so be there, because my friends I will play, just because we all get together, let's play Cash Flow for fun.
My friends are not nearly nerdy enough. Fantastic. Anything else on the list?
I would also say, to be a little non-traditional, there's a book that I read recently, and it is by Jen Sincero.
Yep, love her. With You're a Badass with Money, that one?
Exactly. You're a Badass at Making Money. That was a book I listened to on Audible about 2 months ago. So it also is more so about mindset and really, putting your mind to accomplishing anything.
Yeah, it's so funny because the secretary at my office got a calendar from, she's the EA, the executive assistant for our GC, and she got a Jen Sincero calendar, and it's called You're a Badass, and it has quotes from all her different books on every day. And I saw it, and it's so branded, like her books when you see them. And I knew, as soon as I saw it, I knew it was her. And she was like, "Who is this person?" And I was like, "How do you not know?
You had the
calendar." Yeah, that's a great, great choice. What were some of your favorite books that you read last year that were any recommendations, I guess is what I'm asking.
Definitely. So I guess a non-money book recommendation I definitely say is Grant Cardone, the 10 times rule or 10X rule.
Yep.
So that book, I don't know if it necessarily changed my life, but the combination of attending FinCon and listening to that around the same time definitely took my productivity to the next level. One of the best things that he really says is that you write your goals down and then kind of 10 times your goal because you're not thinking big enough and just rewriting your goals every day. So that tool especially has helped me achieve more than I would have thought I could achieve.
Great, great recommendation. I think that's a really good book. And again, not because it changes your life, but it really helps you think about playing bigger. And I think often you have these big goals, or you think you have the big goals and that you're committed to them, but you're not really doing the work. And it is a daily commitment that you make towards achieving your goals. And I think often people are vaguely interested in achieving their goals as opposed to really truly committed to making that change.
Yes, I completely agree. It's like, it's something nice to do, not necessarily that commitment and that consistency.
Yeah. And I'm not a huge Tim Ferriss fan, but I go in and out of kind of my, love-hate relationship with him. And one of the things that I do find really fascinating, and I continue to find fascinating, and no matter how many books and podcasts, I consume, is the number of people who are successful who really just do the basics, whether it's meditating or writing down your goals or, taking, self-care, all those types of things that you just wouldn't imagine from, like, for lack of a better term, 6-year-old white dude who runs like a hedge fund, And he's like, well, I meditate every night. You're really? That's your secret? And I think that at the end of the day, the real secret is there is no secret. It's the same thing people have been doing for all of time, and we just have forgotten how to do it.
I agree. Other things tend to get in the way, and we forget about taking care of our basic needs and what our bodies and mind really need.
And we don't create the space really for that. We're just so busy trying to fill the day and be busy that we're not being as effective or productive as we could be if we took a step back and really wrote our goals down and figured out if what we're doing moves us in that direction. Well, I could wax on and on about achieving your goals, but I want to respect your time. So I just want to thank you so, so much for coming on today and sharing your tips and strategies with my audience. And before I let you go, I want to ask you one last question, which I ask everybody who comes on the show. And that is, what do you think separates those who find happiness from those who struggle to find happiness?
I really think that those who find happiness choose happiness. So I know many may not think about happiness as a choice, but I do think of happiness as a choice. It's that choice to, wake up each day, be thankful, grateful, even saying affirmations, to just start your day on the right foot and just being blessed to, be able to see that next day.
You must have read my website because I am a complete believer in choosing happiness. And it's actually the background on my phone. It's like my personal mantra and personal prompt is, what are you choosing? because I want to always say that I'm choosing happiness. You know, I think in any situation you get to choose how you react. And I think sometimes we get swept up in the emotion or the anxiety or the stress of day-to-day life, and we don't stop to choose happiness.
I completely agree.
Well, thank you so much, Tia, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was so great to chat with you. We have a ton in common, so I really, really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for listening this week, you guys, and joining me for the Happy Lawyer Project podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please feel free to share it with your friends. And I'd love for you to head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's already left a review, sent me an email, DM'd me on Instagram, or reached out to me in any other way. I truly appreciate you and love hearing from you. And I want to just remind everyone that this week's sponsor is Common Bond. So if you're considering refinancing your student loans this year, I would definitely head over to commonbond.co/happylawyer to check them out. As a reminder, you'll receive a $200 cash bonus for using that link. Until next week, I hope everyone finds their happy.